What's up, everybody? It's Clark here for the BOS Sports Podcast, coming to you after what has been a rainy start to our week here in Atlanta, as both the Braves and Hawks have played 2 games each since we have last been together, with the same results, both winning 1 game and losing the other. The Braves, of course, were rained out yesterday's game versus the Marlins and had 2 games of their opening weekend so far, drawing over 80,000 fans. As well, the Hawks, they split a pair of games over the weekend, losing to the Knicks 125-105 in what was mostly a blowout until the Hawks came back and made a fairly respectable score. And as well, the Hawks defeated the Utah Jazz yesterday, Sunday, on a back-to-back at State Farm Arena, beating them 147-134, a blowout in their own right. Warding off the Utah Jazz comeback effort. They made a respectable score as well after the Hawks had a monstrous lead there in that game. Happy win for the Hawks as they remain below the Sacramento Kings in the standings. The Sacramento Kings first-round draft pick is in the possession of the Atlanta Hawks. It is protected between selections 1 through 12, as we have been focused on. And the Kings, they just beat the Cavaliers as well, the Pistons tonight. And the Hawks are now 1.5 games below the Kings in the overall NBA standings, which determine the draft order. Of course, there's the lottery selections, and then after that is determined solely by overall league standings. So now the Atlanta Hawks are in position. They're 1 game back of the Orlando Magic. They could potentially go for the Southeast Division, go for that banner. As well, in process, they could potentially put the Orlando Magic below the Sacramento Kings in their overall NBA standings. So exciting times for Atlanta Hawks as they hope to have exciting into their season. As well, in this episode, I'm going to be making cases for player awards for our rookie of the year, Zachary Shea, as well Dyson Daniels. He's up for both most improved player as well defensive player of the year. Hopefully, they both win one award each at least. So the Hawks and Mavericks, the Hawks and Magic, that is, their season series so far is split 1-1. Speaking, of course, towards that Southeast Division race in the NBA, the Hawks have split their season series so far, 1 game each, and they have 2 games left. So if the Hawks and Magic were to split those 2 remaining games 1-1 and end the regular season with the same record, it would then be determined by conference record whether or not who wins the division, and that would also determine seeding, I believe, in the play-in tournament. As the Atlanta Hawks, if they are a 7th or 8th seed, they'll be playing on Tuesday night, and if they're 9th or 10th seed in the NBA, they'll be playing on Wednesday night. 15th and 16th are the play-in dates for the NBA play-in tournament, just starting off here in about a week's time. So the Kings, aforementioned, they just last week, they lost to the Washington Wizards and have now beaten both the Cleveland Cavaliers and Detroit Pistons, 2 of the better teams in the NBA, and of course the Eastern Conference, on back-to-back nights after having lost to one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. So a little bit tough what to make of them as they come here in these final games. Look for them as they look to secure seeding in the play-in tournament as well. They have that nice trio of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis. They could certainly be a disruptive force there early in the playoffs there in the Western Conference. But on the other side of that coin, they have this 2025 NBA draft pick, which the Hawks hold. And it would be sure nice for them to add a first-round draft pick in the top 12 selections to what they already have. Of course, there's rumors swirling of Domantas Sabonis potentially being traded. That core could potentially be broken up. The Sacramento Kings are certainly one of the most interesting teams in the NBA. The Hawks are coming in tonight where they're 1 game below them, tied with the Mavericks, who play the Lakers next on Wednesday. Anthony Davis is coming back on back-to-back, healthy for the Mavericks. It'll be an interesting matchup for the Hawks there. Kyrie Irving is, of course, out for the season. We hope for a full recovery for him. He's, of course, his championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers is one of the greatest moments in NBA history. Watching him be a key part of that, special memory as a sports fan. Really sucks for Mavericks, of course. They made that Anthony Davis trade. They're now facing the Lakers, and they're still not completely healthy. And so if the Kings won tonight, and of course they did, they're now tied with the Mavericks for 14th overall, worst of the league, and half game. Correction for earlier. Hawks and Mavericks are not tied. The Mavericks are half game ahead of them for 14th overall, worst NBA. And that's now half game. If the Kings lose tonight, the Mavericks are half game above the Hawks, and above that, now the Kings, after winning tonight, are full game above the Mavericks for 15th place in the NBA. We'll get this all sorted out. So the Hawks have to trade loss for the Kings the rest of the way. That is, if the Kings were to win, the Hawks were to pick up a game on the Kings. They're in the NBA overall standings. That's not the case now. Coming in tonight, they were losing at halftime, so I had a few different notes written down. I'm getting a little confused here. I was looking at halftime. The Kings were down by 10, and they outscored them by 20 points there in that second half. I believe 65-45 did the Kings over the Pistons. And my game notes here are a little bit mixed up because I had the Kings losing that game as I was writing the rest of my notes. They won that game. They're now a full game, I believe, above the Mavericks for 15th NBA. Oh. So for the Hawks themselves, they have clinched a spot in the play-in there. They'll have a chance to make the NBA playoffs in 2025. That's honestly a miracle after the Jalen Johnson went down for a season with a shoulder injury, and speaks to the ability of Landry Fields, the front office, to retool this team at the deadline, even with minimal moves, arguably. Going 9-5 in March, helped the Atlanta Hawks secure the play-in tournament spot, aforementioned last episode from last week. With the emergence of Vit Krejci as well, this Atlanta Hawks team has a bolstering young core of players, and sometimes, as a fan with prospects of Jalen Johnson coming back next season, want to look ahead towards the next season and forget the rest of this year and look for just the players and core to get healthy for next season. But it's important that they also have experience in the playoffs and have some success to build upon as well. We know a Trae Young team will never quit, so they'll have to root for them. Hopefully they make at least the first round and go deep in the first round, get a lot of experience there in the playoffs, not make a deep run in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So as well, aforementioned, on watch for Hawks individual player awards coming in. These awards are supposed to be awarded for the regular season, so no matter what happens in play-in, Dyson Daniels, these results of the next 4 games will be key in what happens. It feels like the Rookie of the Year race is pretty tight. Dyson Daniels, we'll talk to about in a minute. Defensive rating is very key among the voters. And, of course, defensive rating, of course, is weighted a little bit by what the rest of the team does. 4 of the last 5 Defensive Player of the Year have also been one of the top players in defensive rating, top qualified players in the league. So that's been a key statistic for voters in the Defensive Player in the Year award. Even though Dyson Daniels is having the record year with steals, he's currently at 222, just 3 short of Allen Iverson, tying for the most in over 20 years. The most, Allen Iverson had 225 steals in 2002-2003 season. Dyson Daniels potentially tie that tomorrow in night's game versus the Magic. We certainly hope him to do so. Cause some disruption there with Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, the rest of the Orlando Magic. As well as Zachary Riedesheim, he's on the rookie ladder, and he ranks just below Stephon Castle for top in the league. Stephon Castle, he's been ending the season strong. He's had a couple of 22-point games here recently, including nearly a triple-double versus the Cavaliers. That might have sealed the Rookie of the Year award race. But really, this award race is very tight, and I'll break it down here. For right now, we're going to pause for a quick station identification. This is the BOS Sports Podcast. So the NBA Rookie of the Year award is usually awarded to the player having the statistically best season, not the player who they think might have the best career or most talent overall. Recent examples are the 2017 and 2018 Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, could not have predicted the drop-off and the problems that Ben Simmons had after his 2018 Rookie of the Year award. As well, Malcolm Brogdon, 2017, same Rookie of the Year award class as Jaylen Brown and Brandon Ingram, as well as Joel Embiid, who had a monstrous 2.5 blocks per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, 22.2 points per game. But the other variable in this and the regular season awards as well are games played in that season. Joel Embiid, of course, only had 31 games played and finished third in that voting, with Malcolm Brogdon winning that award. 26.4 minutes per game, 10 points, 10.2 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game, 1.1 steal per game. And of course, he was playing on the Bucks. He later joined Jaylen Brown on the Celtics. Currently on the Wizards, he's supposed to be an unrestricted free agent in the offseason as Malcolm Brogdon. He struggled a little bit this year. He was certainly on my radar for Atlanta Hawks as a potential mid-level exception signing for Atlanta Hawks going next year. Right now, it's looking pretty shaky on how Malcolm Brogdon is doing. So, backtrack here, how this relates to Rookie of the Year award. Malcolm Brogdon won 2017. We're now seeing this race between Stephon Castle and as well as Zachary Richey. And their statistics are fairly even, fairly close, although Stephon Castle has a slight advantage in several categories. Zachary Richey so far in this NBA season, coming into Monday's action, has 71 games played, 12.4 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game, 24.8 minutes played, 44.9% field goal, 34.6 from three-point land, 72.3 from free throws, 3.6 rebound, 1.3 assists, 0.7 assists, steals per game, and half a block per game. As well, turnovers per game, 1.2, very low for a rookie. Very notable, he has one double-double as well. Very notable as well, he has 3 30-point performances, 3 30-point-plus performances. Currently has a plus-minus negative 2.1. Offensive-defensive rating 111.7, and defensive rating 115.4. Compared to Stephon Castle, he's played 6 more games this season with 77, averaging a little bit more minutes per game, 26.3 minutes per game, compared to Richey, 24.8 points per game. Stephon Castle, 14.5 points per game, compared to Richey's 12.4 points per game. Rebounds per game, same at 3.6. Assists per game, 3.9 for Stephon Castle compared to Richey, 1.3. Turnovers, 2.1 for Stephon Castle compared to 1.2 for Richey. Steals, 0.9 compared to Richey's 0.7. Blocks, I think Stephon Castle is like 0.2 compared to Richey's 0.5. Stephon Castle is shooting lower field from the field as well, 42.2% compared to Richey's 44.9%, and significantly lower from three-point land by nearly 20%, around 20%. That is 28.3% from three-point arc for Stephon Castle compared to Zachary Richey's 34.6%. As well, Stephon Castle has slightly less of a plus-minus with a negative 2.5. Offensive rating 112 for Stephon Castle. Defensive rating 116 for Stephon Castle. So Stephon Castle, slightly higher offensive rating, slightly worse defensive rating than Zachary Richey. As well as Stephon Castle, only 2 30-point-plus performances this game. We've certainly seen with the 3 30-point-plus performances by Richey, a little bit more of potential peak for his career there and what he could potentially do on the NBA basketball court. But on the other end, that Stephon Castle has more 20-point-plus performances, a little bit more consistency, which contributes, of course, to him having the higher point-per-game average on the year than Zachary Richey. And he's been finishing the year strong. Aforementioned 2 22-point performances in his last 2 games, including a near triple-double, which may have ended the Rookie of the Year race if he had, in fact, had a triple-double last weekend versus the Cleveland Cavaliers on the 4th. The Spurs lost to Cavs. Castle had 22 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds, 50% shooting from field, 5 for 6. Stellar day from free throw land. Although from three-point arc, he only shot 1 for 6. 3 turnovers as well. Modest amount, though, for 33 minutes played, and of course having the 11 assists. That's nearly 4-to-1 assist ratio. We look at that with Trae Young a lot, and we see that. And Trae Young will often have these crazy 5-to-1 assist ratio on 20 assist game with 4 turnovers, and we'll say, all right, we'll take it 5-to-1. In contrast, the Hawks will consistently state that they're aiming to develop Zachary Boucher at him being 19 compared to Stephon Castle. He's a little bit older at 20 and, of course, had that 1 year at UConn. Rookie of the Year is a neat award, but MVP is cooler, and I think Zachary Boucher has a good shot at leading this Atlanta Hawks team to Eastern Conference Finals victory, finally winning that banner and potentially winning MVP in the series along the way. That being said, this race is very close. Zachary Boucher is right there with Stephon Castle, having the recent hot streak of games. Only 4 games left, 2 against the Magic, key to the Hawks potentially winning the Southeast Division. Statement game or 2 by Zachary Boucher in the last 4 games, especially with this Orlando Magic matchup and the stakes of the division being on the line. Potential there for Zachary Boucher to come in and steal it here in the final couple games from Stephon Castle, who's, I think, leading by just a very slim margin. Points per game, looking back in the history, the Rookie of the Year award, there are 2 key stats that have seemed to determine most Rookie of the Award winners, and that's both points per game and games played, availability. One of the best examples of that is 2021-2022 Rookie of the Year award run by Scotty Barnes, with 5 first-place votes more than Evan Mobley, who played 69 games compared to Scotty Barnes' 74 games. Evan Mobley statistically had a better season than Scotty Barnes in nearly every category except for points, steals, as well as games played and minutes played. And, of course, Scotty Barnes, he won that, aforementioned, by 5 more first-place votes than Evan Mobley. The situation we see this year, Stephon Castle has a little bit more of a lead. I would say maybe a 10-vote lead, maybe an 8-vote lead, something like that. We currently see a similar trend, though. Zachary Boucher, he certainly leads in other categories more than Stephon Castle. Of course, he has that much better shooting percentage. He has that much better turnover per game margin than Stephon Castle. He, of course, has that per 36 minutes, and those extrapolated numbers, he'll have a higher rebounding margin per game. As well, Zachary Boucher having the better defensive rating. I wish I looked up for this episode. I'm wondering right now, does the Spurs overall team defensive rating, is it better than the Hawks? I know looking at defensive rating for the Hawks, Dyson Daniels, that's hurt Dyson Daniels in his case for Rookie of the Year. Zachary Boucher already with a nice defensive rating. His defensive rating is being held back by the Hawks. Might put a little bit of a grain of salt on his defensive rating and might push that up some. He's certainly a very stalwart defender, a two-way force is Zachary Boucher, much more so than Stephon Castle. Should definitely be weighted in consideration for Rookie of the Year, although aforementioned Rookie of the Year usually determined by points and minutes played / games played. And that aforementioned example of Scotty Barnes over Evan Mobley in the 2021-2022 season. It'll be interesting how much we see the Atlanta Hawks prioritize this in the last 4 games, how much they play Boucher, how much they potentially want to see him win the Rookie of the Year. I think as much as the team is pushing for the narrative of it, I think they really, behind closed doors, do not care in prioritizing his development. As Atlanta Hawks, they want to get to window of NBA title contention here in the remaining couple of years of Trae Young's contracted years. Hopefully, of course, aforementioned, always hope for him to get signed a nice extension with the Hawks. And I think that'll happen. But moving on. Going on. Now, Dyson Daniels. Moving on. Defensive Player of the Year award situation. We've seen a very interesting and odd trend aforementioned here. And the NBA betting odds, there's not quite as many Defender Player of the Year ladders or power rankings as there are rookie odds. What we see a little bit are the betting odds for Defensive Player of the Year. And we saw a very interesting name appear at the top of it. Former winner, Defensive Player of the Year, Draymond Green is now number one in betting odds, with Evan Mobley a close second, Lou Dort in third place. Dyson Daniels was not even in the picture in the betting odds I saw today for Defensive Player of the Year. And the facts are the voters for Defensive Players of the Year have shown that they really love that defensive rating metric on the NBA.com website and use it kind of as the Bible. As just last season, Victor Wembanyama, with the significantly better steal and block numbers, they awarded Rudy Gobert the award with the 107.4 stalwart defensive rating, number one among qualified players, compared to Victor Wembanyama's 111.2. Of course, the defensive rating is a conglomerate of stats. It's formula stats, and it also includes the amount of points scored by the team per 100 possessions. So there is a bit of weight of how the teams play and how the rest of the defense plays. That is while that player is on the court. So amount of points per 100 possessions while the player is on the court factors into the player's defensive rating. So Spurs, they were not quite the same defensive team the Minnesota Timberwolves were last season. So that could have factored a little bit into Wembanyama's defensive rating being worse. Of course, you see that margin, a significant margin, not a close margin, so that argument becomes a little bit more dicey, dubious to get at. But back to Dyson Daniels here in this year's award. Of course, the voters will like that defensive rating metric, and that's a little bit why we see Draymond Green shoot up, as he probably has the best combination in this conversation of DPOY players of defensive rating with steals and blocks overall. So Dyson Daniels, he has 222 steals, leading the NBA first overall, the most of any player since Allen Iverson had left shoulder. 225 in the 2002-2003 season, as everyone's been posting about. Hot raving topic online on NBA fan sites. Lou Dort, aforementioned, he's one of the names in the DPOY play conversation. He has 1.1 steals per game and 0.6 blocks per game, but a defensive rating of 107. And if the writers treasure that over everything else, they would name him the Defensive Player of the Year. For the last 5 winners of the Defensive Player in the award, led the league in defensive player rating, and the 1 year didn't happen. Most of the last, there's a games played factor situation that year as well. Robert Williams III led in defensive rating, but Marcus Smart, of course, won that year. First guard to do so in some years. So the statistic, a defensive rating for players, takes into account aforementioned opponents' points per 100 possessions while players are on the floor, which Dyson Daniels unfortunately suffers the stat from the Atlanta Hawks team defensive woes. And they were not so bad before Jalen Johnson injury. The Hawks were having a decent defensive rating before that. And they proved a little bit on defense overall after having to trade away Bogdanovich and DeAndre Hunter, picking up 3 players. But since the All-Star break, they're still averaging 118.9 defensive rating, which is good for 6th worst in the NBA. And unfortunately, Dyson Daniels, while he's on the court, of course, the Atlanta Hawks defensive rating, it counts while Dyson Daniels is on the court and while he's off the court. But as well, the defense points allowed per 100 possessions while Dyson Daniels is on the court has still been a factor in Dyson Daniels' defensive rating. A little bit surprising, 114 there. Evan Mobley on the year, of course, number 2 in the standings and the betting odds for Defensive Player of the Year. 1.6 blocks per game, 0.8 assists per game, steals per game, and 108.6 defensive rating. Draymond Green, 1 block, 1.4 steals per game, 109.2 defensive rating. Dyson Daniels, 3 steals per game, leading the NBA by far. 0.7 blocks per game, 114.8 defensive rating. Ooh. Lou Dort, 0.6 blocks per game, 1.1 steal, 107 defensive rating. Kendrick Williams currently leads the league in defensive rating with 103.7. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a 105.5. So for Dyson Daniels, then there's the deflections argument. Dyson Daniels is averaging 6.2 deflections per game, has 427 deflections on the season, which is nearly 200 more than the second closest player. Keon Ellis has 255. No other Defensive Player of the Year contender, even in the top 10. Of course, on the NBA website, they count it as a hustle stat. It's only counted for defensive deflections, of course. You don't want to make a deflection on offense. But so, should be, of course, counted in considering Defensive Player in the Year. But Dyson Daniels having such a dominant performance this season, the steals category, and as well deflections, I would give him Defensive Player of the Year. If I was voting, he'd be number 1 for me. So, moving on here, about to move on to Atlanta Braves, catch up on a little bit of Braves action. Going to pause here for station identification. This is the BOS Sports Podcast. Blogcast. Zipping right along here, getting through this episode pretty quick. Already a half hour in, about to go on to Braves. Gonna have a lot more programming coming up after this week. Got a busy week going on. So back to Atlanta Braves here. Big news, Chadwick Tromp, one of fan favorites of both Gwinnett Stripers and Atlanta Braves fans, has been DFA'd to make room for Sean Murphy to return. And Sean Murphy will be available for the Philadelphia series. The Atlanta Braves are facing the Philadelphia series, Phillies, April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And what could be potentially a pivotal series as the Atlanta Braves are coming in 1-8. The Phillies could potentially put in a knockout blow to Atlanta Braves in division race early in the season, as the Phillies are absolutely on a heater right now. The Atlanta Braves, they cannot afford to put option Drake Baldwin, that is, the other catcher. He's been having fantastic at-bats as a rookie, even though his plate numbers have not entirely shown it. They're in results. Drake Baldwin is putting up absolute battles at the plate, and even if it's only for a few games a week, the Atlanta Hawks could absolutely not afford to lose that offensive production right now, sitting at 1-8. As well, Sean Murphy, it'll be ideal for them if they can give him rest days early on and is coming back from the injury, even after having a solid week of rehab there in AAA. So, in other news around the league, MLB, big news of the day, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., $500 million contract, no deferrals with the Blue Jays. And just as chronicling as a fan, we saw Giancarlo Stanton with the first $300 million contract nearly 11 years ago, with $325 million back in 2014. Well, over 10 years later, $500 million is now the new $300 million in superstar MLB contract scales. Puts a lot of things potentially in perspective for us Atlanta Braves fans who have been hopeful for the organization to spend more, especially the last offseason, not having too much in the bullpen, and losing Joe Jimenez and AJ Minter and all that. Hopefully this means they have planned financially long-term to re-sign our favorite player, Ronald Acuna Jr. His contract is up, and just 3 more seasons after this year, after the 2028 season, as hopefully he has a monstrous comeback. And at the end of that, he'll, of course, with the monstrous comeback, be in conversations for contracts like those. As well as a fan, with concession stands already, concession prices already fairly bolsterous, fairly inaccessible. $15 beers. How are you supposed to drink 5 $15 beers? That's like making half a car payment or something. So I dread what this means for fans looking to see their favorite players in person, what it means for the future of baseball, for fans attending games and trying to afford concessions and tickets, parking, all those things. Certainly long are the days where I would enjoy going to several games a season, a few games a month. I used to like to go to around my college ages. Already a few times a year. I hope they make the playoffs. And if they make the NLCS or World Series, then be there for that and not miss out on that, because I went to 30, 40 games the regular season drinking $15 beers. So the truest part for fans looking to skirt those expensive concessions, they have, of course, the clear bag policy. You can bring in a clear plastic gallon Ziploc bag any food that you desire, and as well bring with that water bottle. What's a disposable water bottle, I think that is. And I've seen some fans get creative with that. I went to the Dodgers game past September, and some fans next to me, they look like they went to the H Mart there near Peachtree Industrial Boulevard and loaded up. They had pizza, they had sushi, they had a bunch of stuff. Not all that seemed to fit in a gallon Ziploc bag. I guess there were multiple people, but they certainly got creative with that rule there. But certainly can't bring a beer from the outside, so does not quite solve all the problems there. Opening night attendance for Atlanta Braves, 41,583. A fairly strong opening day. Of course, that weekend there is the Final Four tournament. The next night's attendance would be around 39,000. The Braves won 10-0 over the Marlins and shut them out. Marcell Ozuna, they got their first victory of the year. Marcell Ozuna, 3 for 5, 3-hit day, 3 RBIs with a home run. Matt Olson, 2 for 4, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, as the Braves could do no wrong. 16 hits total Friday night. Spencer Schwellenbach as well, 8-inning pitch, scoreless Jim. 10 strikeouts, 4 hits. Yeah, no hitter going, I believe, through 4 or 5 innings. If I remember correctly, 99 pitches. They played the pitch count smart. 73 strikes. Holy moly. Everyone feasted. Michael Harris had a 3-hit game. Ozzy Albies, 2 hits, 1 RBI. Austin Riley, 2 hits, 2 RBIs. Brian De La Cruz, 2 hits, walk. Drake Baldwin, hit, RBI, and walk. Jared Glownick, 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. They faced Marlins starting pitcher Max Meyer, who's certainly a very stalwart starting pitcher. And then aforementioned, and the MLB season preview podcast, the Marlins bullpen, not very deep, certainly not as deep as we've seen it in recent years. And they certainly capitalized with that, having kind of a batting practice situation there Friday night at Truist Park. Next day, aforementioned attendance 39,732. For an opening day weekend, that seems a little bit light for the Braves. Aforementioned Final Four is going on, and there are two SEC teams with the Florida Gators and Auburn Tigers, so it might have had an impact a bit. I do wonder, with all the fans playing online about the state of the team, if that has any potential impact on this little bit of fans. Really, for the Braves, 5,000 fans. I'm not sure how much of impact that makes. So the Braves hitting struggles return in that game. Unfortunately, they were shut out by the Marlins Saturday. Michael Harris had a hit and walk. Ozzie Albies 0 for 4. Ozuna Saturday was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Matt Olson, 1 hit, 1 walk. Decent day. Austin Riley really struggled. 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Brian De La Cruz, 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Drake Baldwin, a 2-hit day. Nick Allen really struggled, 0 for 3, as Orlando Arcia was scheduled in the Sunday lineup before the rainout. Jared Kelenic, 1 for 2 with a strikeout. Stuart Fairchild had a pinch hit. A.J. Smith-Shawver struggled again in the second start of the year. The Marlins, they're pretty hungry. Of course, after being shut out, they came out hungry. Marlins, not the most stalwart offensive team. So I was hoping for A.J. Smith-Shawver to do better in this game. He had 4.2 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks, and 1 home run to Marlins hitter Mervis. A.J. shows flashes of command. Ideally, the Braves would be using him as a 5th starter or in AAA, as he shows a lot of flashes of inconsistency with that command as well, which gets him in trouble, gets base runners, and which contributed to those 3 earned runs. Having him as a 4th starter and going into Friday night versus the Tampa Bay Rays in a game where the Braves might be looking to bounce back after what could potentially be a tough series versus the Phillies. We're thankfully facing Taijuan Walker at least Wednesday, so the Braves hopefully will at least win 1 or 2 out of 3. Zach Wheeler, Chris Sale tomorrow night. We'll get into that in just a second. But putting A.J. Smith-Shawver, the Friday night matchup versus the Rays, potential game where the Braves are looking to bounce back. Potentially a tough spot. Late Rays have been playing some pretty good baseball as well this year. They have a few wins already, more than Braves. If he can man his pitches, though, A.J. Smith-Shawver, he's going to carve up that Rays lineup pretty good. So, Braves probable pitchers for this upcoming Philadelphia Phillies series. Zach Wheeler versus Chris Sale. Marquee matchup. Hopefully that's the starting pitchers of Game 1 of the NLCS. We'd love to see Braves Phillies, 7 games NLCS. Looking kind of doubtful right now. Maybe NLDS. If the Braves get there. Phillies looking like they'll probably win the division right now. A lot of baseball left to go. It's a long season. Braves can certainly turn it around, although they got a lot of work to do. Starting tomorrow night, Chris Sale versus Zach Wheeler, 7:15. I like the 7:20 start times. I don't like this 5 minutes less. People do a lot with those 5 minutes. Bring back the 7:20 start times, I say. With the Braves 1-8 to start the season, in last place in MLB, the Philadelphia Phillies have a chance to come in early this season and put a potential knockout blow to the Braves in the division race. Taijuan Walker follows him versus Grant Holmes Wednesday night, the 9th of April. Spencer Schwellenbach versus Jesus Luzardo. They both had stalwart starts in their last game. Of course, Spencer Schwellenbach, aforementioned with those 8 innings pitched scoreless in the shutout victory for the Braves Friday night. Phillies just came off of beating the Dodgers in a hard-fought series with Nick Castellanos hitting grand slam to win Sunday's match versus the Phillies. He hit that pitch off Alex Vesia, who threw an 89 mile-per-hour fastball, kind of middle up, outside on plate, towards the meaty part of Nick Castellanos' bat. It was an absolute meatball. Nick Castellanos did not miss it. He hit it a long way. Grand slam for the Phillies, as the Dodgers had now lost 3 out of the last 4 games and reeling a little bit. Alex Vesia, that he sits low 90s in his fastball. So to see 89, very concerning there for the Dodgers, who are now starting to see some holes poked through their bullpen overall. They lost again to the Nationals today with their bullpen blowing the lead. So tough times there for the Dodgers. I had them number one in the MLB power rankings. It's looking a little bit dubious now. We'll see how things go for the Phillies this week as well against the Braves. Hopefully they lose some games as well and make my power rankings look better. And of course, I want the Braves to win against them as well. So as far as the Phillies lineup, they have some pretty hot hitters. Kyle Schwarber, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs on the season, hitting .265. Nick Castellanos, .258 average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs this season. Bryce Harper is hitting .278 on the season with 1 home run, 3 RBIs. Bryson Stott has a home run, 4 RBIs, .286 average as well. Alec Boehm, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, their struggles from the end of last season have continued into this year. Tomorrow night, they're facing Chris Sale, of course, one of the best left-handed pitchers in the league, Triple Crown Cy Young Award winner for the Braves last season. And he'll want to be careful how he carves up Kyle Schwarber tomorrow night, as Schwarber has reverse splits versus lefties this season with a .417 average, a 533 on-base percentage, and a 1,000 slugging percentage for Kyle Schwarber versus lefties this season. Careful with Kyle Schwarber from the left side. 2 of his 4 home runs as well have come versus lefties in less at-bats. The rest of the team is fairly cool versus lefties, although Nick Castellanos, aforementioned, had his grand slam versus Vesia, of course, a lefty. Of course, aforementioned 89 mile per hour pitch. Vesia's velo down on that pitch, absolute meatball. So the righties in the pen for the Braves, where the Braves will have the work cut out for them. As Bryce Harper, of course, being a left-handed hitter, having nice numbers versus right-handers, .348 average, .423 on base percentage, as well as Bryson Stott's very nice versus splits, .412 versus righties, .474 on base percentage. JT Realmuto is seeing some reverse splits as well for the Phillies, .316 average, .381 on base percentage, .474 slugging percentage versus right-handed pitchers. And don't sleep on Edmundo Sosa, who has 7 hits and 11 at-bats and 6 RBIs versus right-handed pitchers already this season. Caution the Braves on any plan of walking a batter to get to Edmundo Sosa in the order, of course, with those 6 RBIs, 7 hits, and 11 at-bats versus right-handed pitchers. Keys for Atlanta Braves in this series: get off to a hot start offensively tomorrow. Easier said than done versus perennial Cy Young candidate Zach Wheeler. Get to the Philadelphia Phillies, half their bullpen early the first game and win it. Use those top half of their relief core early on. Tucker them out, knock them out for tomorrow night's game versus Taijuan Walker. Have a fun game versus Taijuan Walker. Tee off them, get into that bullpen deep, and then go into Thursday with Spencer Schwellenbach coming off that 8-inning scoreless appearance. And hopefully he'll absolutely carve them up on Thursday night. Hoping for the Braves to flip the script and win the series, winning 2 out of 3 games, get back in the division standings a little bit. As well, get 3 victories, go have a 3-9 record that does not look nearly as bad as potentially a 1-11 or a 2-10 record would. So, upcoming series this weekend for the Braves. They're facing the Tampa Bay Rays, going to George Steinbrenner Field, the Yankees spring training facility. Rays, of course, with the hurricane, are not in their home field this season. And the Braves will be visiting them this weekend. Be a nice day trip for anyone potentially looking to go to Florida this weekend. Go see some Braves Rays, George Steinbrenner Field, and catch some Florida sunshine. So then after that, the Braves head to Blue Jays as they're on a road trip in Toronto Monday through Wednesday, April 14th through 16th. The Hawks, they got 4 games left, 2 of them versus the Magic, aforementioned. They have a potential chance to get above the Orlando Magic. They're currently 1 game behind them in the Southeast Division standings. as well bury the Magic behind the Sacramento Kings, who are 15th in the league after a clutch win tonight versus the Detroit Pistons. So things are looking potentially hopeful coming out of this rain here. Rainy Monday, rainy Sunday here in Atlanta. And we're looking for hopefully what is a boisterous night in Atlanta sports tomorrow night, with the Atlanta Hawks beat down victory over Orlando Magic and Atlanta Braves beat down victory over the Philadelphia Phillies. So this has been the BOS Sports Podcast. Be sure to listen to the previous episodes of the BOS Sports Podcast, stream Bar of Soap music on either Spotify or YouTube. And we'll see you again after playing game. BOS Sports Podcast returns nightly after the Hawks games, starting with the play-in round. Hopefully the Hawks play 7th or 8th seed as the Southeast Division winners, which will be Tuesday, April 15th. This has been the BOS Sports